Dear Diary, hello. I don't remember if I had gone to therapy already or if I was going to therapy in the last video. But either way, now I went. It was uneventful. Just answered some basic questions. He filled out some forms. I've been very lazy. Very lazy. It's been good. I'm not feeling quite so intensely anymore. Which is partly why I'm being so lazy. Because I'm kind of in shell shock mode. Like, boom, whoa, that was really intense. Everything's now it's just like, whoa. Take a little nap. And I feel good. I'm taking the right steps towards what I need to do in all the different areas. One area that I'm certainly just not thinking about, well, okay, I'm thinking about it, but not giving any weight to any of those thoughts. Like, not making any decisions, not making any statements, any identity statements, any judgments, like that kind of thing, like taking a stand on something and making it and claiming that it's true. The whole subject of this girl and romance and what I want and what I'm gonna do. Not thinking about it. I know, as I've known for the past many years, that the right answer for me right now is to finish my book. Because it's just very much a weight on my shoulders and my brain. And it's very hard for me to be a functioning human, especially in the way that I'm talking about in my book. It's very hard to be that way when I'm this obsessed about my book, because that makes me just floating around in the world but disconnected from the world because I'm this book and this big mental world. So when I observe something, yeah, all that shit happens. All the processing and drawing, connecting the dots, that kind of thing. And that's something I really tried many, many times to communicate to each of my past two roommates. I don't think either of them ever really understood how much that impacted things, impacted the way I behaved, because they were both in such awkward positions of wanting to learn from me and wanting me to be their friend, and I couldn't really help them with either. I was too disconnected to be their friend, and I told them that. And they seemed to be on board. Because if I weren't writing this book, I could have been something a little something a little more like that. But also with the full powers of the intellect brought to bear upon the actual happenings of the moment, instead of a observation in language that would be intolerable to their psychology. And then the process of my book writing self, putting that into place, putting the observation into place, putting the observation that it would be incompatible with their psychology, just even for the simplest reasons of it being a different use of a word, like a different vocabulary, a philosophically built vocabulary that is different from the normal vocabulary of daily use. So I was unable to express myself. Which is why I became quiet. one of the reasons why I've always had an urge to go live in a monastery somewhere and just commit to being a monk of any tradition. Is that having what appears to the ego to be an authoritative backing, the backing of some kind of authority, this great lineage, these great teachers, kind of socially validated, that sounds nice. I feel like I can teach meditation and or prayer in the vocabulary of almost any religion or non-religion, and I can do it effectively and with good words because I've studied a lot and I can do it for myself. But without the backing of an authority, it's just me. Teaching like that is terrifying. With the proper attitude going into teaching and with the proper words, there's nothing really to be afraid of because you can transcend all of the issues, like by telling them that not to dogmatize your words and to just trust themselves and that kind of thing. You can help to mitigate some of the causes for that fear. It's not a fear that's easy to let go of. I kind of want my book to be finished so that it can serve as my validator in some way. If it makes sense to some people, then I'd be like, okay, maybe cool, I can kind of work with this, you know? But when it's just me, and I'm making one of my main principles uncertainty, it seems contradictory, for lack of a better word right now, to believe in uncertainty and to teach. Teaching is like becoming a dream in order to influence somebody else's dream. It's like taking a stand in the clouds. Well, it comes down to something very simple. I want to be a teacher. If I were a Christian, I could say, I want to be a pastor, and I could become a pastor. But I want to be a pastor in atheism, and that doesn't exist. So because I want to be a teacher, but I can't, I'm constantly feeling disconnected. And I think if I had conquered all of my fears, then I could have been a teacher. Not a friend in the traditional sense of the word, but an effective teacher, and therefore a true friend in a lot of ways, if that's what they needed. And well, they did. But I didn't have that confidence, so I tried to walk the line between being a friend and a teacher, and was just bad at both. And I don't want to go into details about how and why I know that they needed a teacher. It came from their own lips, and or it was very evident based off of things like suicide. And just intense negative emotions of various kinds. But I have not been confident, partly because I have not been confident I've had subconscious trauma relating to failure in the past. Failure, especially in terms of like finishing hard assignments, like dropping out of college, kind of encapsulates a lot of it, but in various areas. And then the fundamental uncertainty, which is like, well, reality could be anything. You know, I think that I've got some ideas that work and kind of point in the right direction. But who knows? So there's that fundamental kind of to my core acknowledgement of the uncertainty which I'm building a structure on top of. Which, for those of you who know Christianity, might seem obviously stupid, because you'd be like, well, duh, that's why you build your house upon the rock. The rock being God. And okay, yes, but let's back up a second. Uncertainty to our conceptual mind doesn't seem like a rock. But what if it is a rock? And that's what my book is about. A little bit. God, I was so needy with this girl. I mean, love is powerful, and it was really love. And it wasn't just neediness, it was very much an empathetic love for her as a beautiful person. Who I wanted to support and who I wanted to make happy. But I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't believe that, because the way I came across was pretty needy. but I couldn't be myself around her for the same reasons why I couldn't be free around my roommates. And that made me unable to express empathy as sensitively as she needed it, because she is very sensitive. And part of my neediness came from my belief that that we are matched in terms of sensitivity. But I kept being unable to, like, if it was an 8, if the situation was an 8, I would only get to like 6, and then be disconnected. But still seeing the other two, I'm just being unable to function. So I need to finish my book in order to not be disassociated in relationships. And I need to finish my book to open up doors for me to be myself in the room that the doors open up into. Because when I imagine what my true self would do, like sometimes, like at work, I'm like, my true self would like show up like 5 hours before my shift starts and do some like free meditation lessons out front of the store. Bring my own cushions and just sit there meditating and have a sign that says like, feel free to talk to me, and just seeing what happens. And maybe doing that all the time. And you know, if it's good, then it will be obvious that it's good. And that's kind of what I started trying to do for a while. During the BLM protests, I was out meditating and kind of working my way through mentally, if that's what I wanted to do, to devote myself to becoming the, like, I can't remember his name, but becoming in the spirit of that one philosopher who, like, sat around naked in bathtubs in the street, and I don't remember everything he did, but maybe he was in a wine barrel. I don't remember everything he did. Just the guy who was willing to be crazy and, like, kind of just show everybody a slice of the more animal, resilient side of humanity. And I was toying with the idea of continuing that after the BLM protests, if I wanted to. But I just had some great realizations which made me very sure about what I wanted to say in my book. And I felt like my book was more important, like, in terms of where I could direct my energies to have a bigger impact. I did feel like it was the book. So I stopped doing that. And I've been just going on that and going on that and going on that. But when I drop that for a second and I ask, what would I like to do right now? It's to go out and teach somebody. It's the only thing that really matters to me and that gives me joy. And I've been forgetting what it felt like recently, because it's been a long time since I've let myself do it. Because when I was with those two roommates and I was both a bad teacher and a bad friend, my failings as a teacher manifested in them. And it was always due to attachment, because I wasn't fully committed one way or the other. So I was split. That attachment caused a split, and the split caused fear, which caused the failings. Like I said, I've been very lazy, so my energy is very low. My experience of consciousness is more dreamlike. But in becoming so lazy and just allowing it and accepting without building up an identity or without ignoring it and turning away from it or overly reveling in it and being like, yeah, like, fuck all that stuff, this is what I want to do anyways. Like, I've been able to hone down on the feeling of what I would call the cornerstone of a growth mindset, which is, one way to put it is signal versus noise. When you get a signal, positively reinforce. When you get noise, don't do anything. And what I mean by signal versus noise is, signal is something you know and intimately is a good, wholesome, non-egocentric and non-fear-based happening. Anything from a very abstract thought to a very concrete experience, and doesn't have to be profound, like listening to music. If you know this is what I want to be doing right now, this is what I should be doing right now, this is an act of self-care and love and just appreciation of life and beauty, then positively reinforcing the connection to that signal that's the ticket. Whereas if that's how you feel and then a thought about ice cream pops into your mind, that's just noise and you don't have to react to it. And that sense of signal versus noise and the mindfulness of keeping that sense and positively reinforcing the mindfulness of keeping that sense is the ticket. And it's what I have been not doing for the last week. No, the week before this, the last few days. So like the beginning of my laziness period and the end of my crazy period. Kind of that transition where I was like, but didn't have any more crazy things to do, just kind of still felt crazy, but like was stopping feeling so crazy, into the underwater days. And for that bit of time, I was not trying at all. And part of why I wasn't trying at all is because I, of course, naturally realized a lot of the ways that that sense had been falling asleep over the past few years. because at one point it was so easy and constant that it no longer needed any paying attention to. And in fact, paying attention to it felt like one of the last obstacles to totally abandoning my whole self to the process, if that makes sense. But gallop, head slam, brick wall, shatter, roommate, girl, lots of trauma, make it so the signal noise, no, detect well, all times. Like, boom, boom, boom. And then now here, and then since those 3 points make a downward line, it's like, oh. And climbing out of the hole the second time is different. In some ways it's easier, and in some ways it's harder. It's easier because you know what you need to do. And in a way, it's not like this is unexpected because you've been aware of your progression over time. Like, this isn't a total blindside. It's just acknowledgement of growth and watching the process. But in some ways it's harder because you just don't want to, do you? Some part of you has sprung into being that doesn't want to go. Not ready. And right now for me, what doesn't want to go are the resistances that have built up around writing my book, which have slowly been forming as my confidence has waned in the face of my personal struggles with family and friends. But have also been partly shattered by friends, for example, and family, all of them, as that growth has happened, and as I bounce between walls on my path to wherever the fuck, bits and pieces have been chiseled away. And most recently, less of a chisel, more of a you know, in SpongeBob when he hits it and it just becomes a beautiful sculpture? It's like that. Okay. I'm not saying I'm a beautiful sculpture, but it just wasn't a single chisel press. It was like one chisel press that did like 100. And because of that, all of those parts of me which resist going away regarding my writing, they all know that there's no reason for them to stick around anymore. So now they know that their time is up, but they still resist because that's how they work. And so now I consider those resistances noise and ignore them and positively reinforce whatever helps me towards my writing goals, which is not chain smoking spliffs and being a lazy POS. At least not forever. I got a new bicycle and I fell on my second day, so I skipped work today. I have a big road rash here. Yeah, and so I need to go eat some food so that my legs can recover and so that I can grow more skin. More skin would be nice. Yeah, I guess that's it for now. Goodbye.